Hello, welcome back. As you see, I've gotten all 4 corners finished now. I noticed that as I continued making my joints, as I made the 4th joint, as I continued doing it, the joints got tighter. At the first joint, it was some gaps. It wasn't quite as tight, but as I continued doing it, I got kind of a niche for it, and my joints naturally began getting tighter. Let's go look at the first joint. As you can see, in my first joint that I made, there's just a little bit of gapping that took place right here. And it's not quite as tight. Although it is fairly tight, there's still just not quite as, it's not perfection. It's not quite as tight as I'd like. But as we look here at my 4th joint, you'll see that it's a lot tighter, much tighter. And as I put the pin in, when I drill a pin and put a peg, when I put the peg in, it'll tighten up even tighter. And these joints, as you can see, are a lot more tighter than the first one. You know, that's just a lesson on just anything that you do. When you first start off, you know, you're a beginner, and it just takes a while of doing things just to learn the tricks of the trade and to, just to tighten up on your abilities. The next thing that we need to do is we need to take a drill and drill a 1-inch hole, but we need to be able to make our pegs. That way we can put our pegs in, and then that peg, when we drive it in, will tighten up this joint even further. So let's go make some pegs. So recently I milled up some oak wood. I got some oak from actually from the roadside service. There was a big oak tree that fell on the side of the road, and it was there on the shoulder, and so I contacted them, and they were able to give that to me, and I was able to get that nice oak, and I milled it up. Pegs, when you're doing timber framing, you want a peg that is of a harder wood than the frame that you're using. That's why I'm going to use oak, and plus I have it available. So I'm going to make a 1-inch peg. So this oak here is at 1 inch. So we're going to use one of these to make our pegs. So we want our wood pegs to be 1 inch by 1 inch, which means we've got to rip them down from this, which is about 5 inches, I believe, to 1 inch slots. For this, I gotta start the generator. It's gonna be a little noisy, so enjoy the music. Okay, at this time we're going to take our draw knife and we're going to turn this peg into an octagon by removing these edges. So just finished here making the wood peg, and now we're gonna cut it off. And there you have it. 1-inch wood peg. So now that we have our 1-inch wood peg that will be pegged into this, yeah, so I got a 1-inch auger, and we're going to auger the first hole into this board, but as this tip punctures this one here, we're going to back off, and then we're going to take this apart, and then we're going to offset it to where when I drive the peg in, it'll draw these things even tighter together. Looks about center to you. Okay, let's go for it.
Yep, looks like we've made it through.
So let's pull these things apart and see. We'll see the pinhole. So just in the shadow there, you can see it left a little indent. Now you can see the circle. See the reflection. Okay, you can probably see it with the reflection of the chisel lighting it up. Just right there is the pinhole. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to offset it over and to the right a little. Excuse me, not right. Over and to the left a little. And just offset this hole. That way when we drive in the peg, it'll pull these two joints together really tight. So here we go. Let's start drilling this thing. Oh, we're gonna have to tighten it up. There you go. Now let's put these joints back together. See how those holes are off-centered? So because they're off-centered, when I hammer that peg in, it's gonna pull these joints in really tight. So here we go. Almost too tight. I'm gonna have to get a heavier hammer. So I've elevated it. That was part of our problem. There we go. I'm going to get a smaller hammer. Okay, we got a smaller hammer here. Let's try it again. From what I learned from this experience, as I should have off-centered that hole even further. I was afraid to go too far because it was the first time I've ever done it, and I should have off-centered it the full half width of the hole. Instead I did more like a third or a quarter, because I was just too concerned. You know, I didn't know if it would break the grain or not. But as you see here, I have just a little bit of gap going on here that shouldn't be there, and it should have drawn it in even tighter. So I should have went ahead and off-centered that the half of a width of a hole. But this is my learning curve. I'm actually doing this little project here. It's my intention to building my own shop this way, and so this little arbor is my learning curve. You can see the wood peg extending out the bottom of that joint right there. So we got to cut that off with the handsaw. So here we go. There it is.
Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will
Peg.
not tarry.